This is our setup lesson where we're going to be setting up the HTML as well as connecting our JavaScript to the HTML in order to begin our game development process. So first of all, we need a way to display a score. We need a way to display a score to the player. We also want to have score stay on screen and then adjust a particular element or a particular span on the page. So updating that, and we need a way to select that. So we've created a span with a class of score, and we're going to use JavaScript to update that. We also have another value that we want to present to the player. So this one is going to be enemy left, and this will be calculating how many bad guys are still left to come out on the screen. So we'll give this one a class as well. We can call it bad left. And by default, we'll just set it to 0. We also need a main game container, so we'll give it a class of container. And then this is where all the gameplay will take place. Starting out, we'll also create a class called message. So this is where our message area goes, and any information we want to present to the player, we can add in here, such as press start to begin. So that means that we also need to create our start button. So this can be a div as well, and we'll adjust it with styling. So give it a class of btn, and this will be our start button. And we'll label it such as well. And then lastly, we're also going to need the player's element. So this can be called basket, a class of basket, and we're going to design it using JavaScript. So this is all of the core elements that we need in HTML in order to present our content. So we haven't applied any styling to it yet, and we'll do that in the upcoming lesson. So this lesson, we're still going to connect our JavaScript to those elements. So let's set up a few variables. And the first one can be message. So using document and query selector, we're going to select the element with a class of message. So prefix it with a dot to select class. We also need to select our score. We can just call it score output. Using document and query selector once again, selecting the element with a class of score so that we have that within an object format and we can utilize it in JavaScript. And let's get the other ones into JavaScript objects as well. So query selector, and we're going to select the element with a class of bad left so that we can update this information. We also need to select our button, so we can just call it btn. And we'll use query selector again because we only do have that one element that we are selecting. And we'll also select the last one that we created. So that's the basket. And using the same format as the other elements, select that element into a JavaScript object. And this one needs a dot in front of it because it's a class. So let's refresh the page, and we don't see anything different within our HTML output. And let's just make sure that we do have the elements selected properly. So now that we've got the elements selected, we can update content within it. So if we want to update the text content, we could say hello in there. And you can see that it updates automatically. So we've got that connection made. The other one is the score output. So that's where the score is going to be. Next, we have bad left. So updating that, btn. And then the last element is the basket. And then you can hover over these within the console just to make sure that you did select them properly, and you're going to see them lighting up. And this is only in Chrome. Some of the browsers will handle the console differently, but in this case we're using Chrome, and you can see as I hover over the elements in the console that we're returning back that are associated with the variable names that they highlight as well. And this is how you can be sure that you have made the connection and you're ready to move on to the next step, where we're going to creating the interaction and updating the content contained within these elements. And that's going to be in preparation for the gameplay. And as well, we need to apply a little bit of styling to make it look more presentable. So that's still all yet to come in the upcoming lessons. So go ahead and set up your HTML core structure. And the way that you can think about this is anything you need to present to the user to be able to play the game, this is what you can set up as your basic start content for your HTML. So we do have a score, we do have a bunch of enemies, and it's useful information for the player to know how many are left. We have a main game area, so within the container, and then we've got a message area that we can communicate with the player. We've got a button, so that can start the game. And then lastly, we have a basket, and this is the player's object that they're going to maneuver in the screen. So go ahead and set everything up, and you're going to be ready to move on to the next lesson.